Welcome, everyone, to a brand new explainer. I am so incredibly pumped you're here. We are going to take our time today, really dig deep over the next 20 minutes or so into something that affects literally every single one of us. Conflict. We're going completely under the hood of human psychology to explore the absolute art of reframing conflict into incredible growth opportunities. We're going to unpack the exact step-by-step mechanisms you can use to turn everyday relationship friction into deep, unshakable connection. So get comfortable, settle in, and let's transform the way you interact with the world.
Okay, let's dive straight into this. We need to talk. I mean, just hearing those four little words, right? You instantly get that icy knot in the pit of your stomach. Maybe your boss puts a vague 15-minute meeting on your calendar for a Friday afternoon. Boom, heart rate spikes. Your shoulders tense up. It's like you're physically bracing for impact. We experience this visceral, universal dread because we naturally look at difficult conversations as literal battlefields. We see them as arenas where somebody wins and somebody loses. But today, we're going to completely flip that script.
To understand why we freak out so much, we actually have to rewind the clock a few thousand years. Human beings are, at our very core, tribal creatures. Back in our deep evolutionary past, sticking with the tribe was quite literally the only way you survived. Conflict within that group, well, that meant you might get ostracized. And thousands of years ago, rejection wasn't just, a bruised ego. It meant wandering the wilderness totally alone. It meant you wouldn't survive. So our brains are hardwired by history to view a sensitive conversation or a piece of tough feedback at work as a literal life or death threat. Your brain incorrectly screams, "My life is on the line."
The biology driving this fear is just absolutely fascinating. Meet your amygdala. This little guy is your ancient reptilian brain. Its one and only job is to keep you alive by constantly scanning your environment for danger. The catch? The amygdala is not very good at telling the difference between a literal hungry tiger jumping out of the bushes and, say, a coworker pointing out a typo in your spreadsheet. It registers emotional challenges and sensitive conversations as physical attacks. It traps us in this automatic loop of self-protection, exactly when what we really need in the modern world is to pause, learn, and grow. So, when that amygdala trips the alarm, we default to one of three modern trauma responses. And I bet you're going to recognize your own default mode right here. First up is fight. In a meeting, this looks like instantly getting defensive, maybe your voice gets a little louder, or you start attacking the other person's character. Then we have flight. This is when you just totally shut down, stonewall, or agree to literally anything just to escape the room as fast as humanly possible. And lastly, freeze. This is when you smile and nod outwardly to keep the peace, but inwardly, you're building a massive brick wall of resentment. Listen, if you catch yourself doing any of this, give yourself some grace right now. You are not broken. You're just fighting against thousands of years of evolutionary biology. But as we know, none of these responses actually help us grow. To beat that biology, we have to mentally change neighborhoods in the brain. On one side, we have the amygdala, right? Strictly focused on survival, threat detection, alarms ringing. On the other side, we have the prefrontal cortex. This is the advanced, modern part of your brain that handles logic, reason, and deep empathy. Reframing conflict is all about the conscious, deliberate act of dragging that conversation out of the defensive, reactive zone on the left and planting it firmly into the logical, empathetic zone on the right. It's literally changing the definition of the conversation while you're having it. Think about how muscle growth works. It's a perfect analogy for this. If you go to the gym and you only lift those tiny, super light weights that feel completely effortless, your muscles aren't going to change. They don't grow when they're perfectly relaxed. They only grow when they hit heavy, uncomfortable resistance. They have to tear on a microscopic level, and then, as they heal, they come back significantly stronger. Well, relationships and your own personal character work the exact same way. A difficult conversation doesn't mean your relationship is doomed. It's just the uncomfortable emotional resistance you need to build a much stronger, incredibly resilient bond. So this brings us to the ultimate paradigm shift you have to make. We have to stop viewing conflict as a war that we need to win and start seeing it as a joint puzzle that we get to solve together. The old toxic way of thinking is, they're attacking me, I have to prove them wrong. But the reframed view? It says, wow, this person actually cares enough about our relationship to bring this up. This is our shared chance to fix a crack in the foundation. And honestly, shifting to this puzzle mindset is a total game changer. It lets the other person point out your blind spots, things you couldn't see if you tried. They're literally holding a puzzle piece you didn't even know was missing.
Now, understanding the theory is great, right? But when you're in the heat of the moment, when your palms are sweating and your heart is pounding, you need a toolkit, a real, practical, repeatable strategy. So we're going to walk through what's called the ACE framework. This is your step-by-step psychological toolkit for turning all that messy tension into profound personal development. I want you to really lock in on these next 3 steps. Take a deep breath, slow down for a second, and let's look at how to steer through the storm with total calm and assurance. The A in our framework stands for assume positive intent. Remember what we just talked about. Your brain's automatic default is to assume malicious intent. Someone brings up a problem and you think they're out to get you. Your job here is to actively force yourself to believe that they're speaking up to make things better, not to hurt you. Let's say a coworker completely tears apart a project you poured your soul into. Your immediate instinct is, they think I'm terrible at my job. But if you assume positive intent, you flip it. You force yourself to believe they want this team to win, and they want this project to be absolutely bulletproof. And you know what the most incredible part of this is? It's what actually happens to your physical body when you make this mental leap. Flipping that automatic assumption of bad intentions is the absolutely required first step to disarming your amygdala. The exact second your brain accepts, hey, wait, they're actually trying to help, your physical defenses just melt away. Your heart rate drops, your breathing slows down. The perceived threat is totally neutralized. You aren't under attack anymore. You're just receiving information. It's like flipping a switch. So, once your body is calm, we move right into the C of the framework, curiosity over defense. Tell me if this sounds familiar. You're in an argument and you're not even really listening. You're just waiting for them to take a breath so you can jump in with, yeah, but, right? We all do it. That is your defensive shield. You have to actively pause that urge. You need to put down that heavy shield and replace it with a giant question mark. In this phase, we are completely changing our goal. We are no longer trying to furiously defend our own turf. Our single, absolute focus is to genuinely, deeply understand what they are experiencing. So what does this actually sound like in the real world? If you're feeling cornered, I want you to try using an open-ended question. Something like, can you help me understand what that looked like from your end? Or maybe, what is the absolutely most important thing you need me to hear right now? When you use phrases like this, you're signaling to them, hey, I've put my weapons down. You're not plotting a counterattack. You're inviting them in to explain. Choosing curiosity like this instantly takes a tense combative showdown and turns it into a productive side-by-side collaboration. It's incredibly powerful. Which brings us to the final step, E, which stands for extract the lesson. Look, once you've survived the conversation and the emotional waves finally start to settle down, your work isn't quite over yet. Every single piece of difficult feedback, no matter how it's delivered, contains a data point. Your job is to extract that lesson so you can upgrade your own character. Ask yourself, okay, what does this whole mess reveal about my communication style, or maybe my own unstated boundaries? And here is the really tough pill to swallow. You have to do this regardless of how poorly the message was delivered. Even if they yelled, even if their tone was completely out of line, you have to sift through the dirt to find that gold nugget of truth that's going to help you level up. The truly beautiful thing about the ACE framework is this incredible outward ripple effect it creates. Because think about it, you aren't just doing this for you. Most people walk into a difficult conversation with you already wearing full battle armor, right? They're expecting a fight, they are just as nervous and stressed out as you are, but when you meet all their armored up anxiety with this calm, steady sense of curiosity, wow, you create a psychologically safe space. You actually give them permission to lower their own guard. You're modeling emotional maturity in real time. And by doing that, you're building an environment where they can grow and evolve right alongside you. All right, so we've talked a lot about the internal mindset. Let's shift to the external, real-world application. Because information is pretty useless if we don't actually do anything with it, right? So here is your actionable challenge for the very next time you run into some relationship friction. I want you to commit to the Curiosity First challenge. Try this out in your daily life this week. And it doesn't need to be some massive life-altering crisis. It could be a silly disagreement with your spouse overloading the dishwasher or a simple miscommunication at the grocery store. Here is the exact metric I want you to burn into your brain right now, 120. I am officially challenging you to commit to 120 seconds. That's just 2 full minutes of pure, unfiltered curiosity during your very next disagreement. For those first 2 minutes, zero defense allowed. None. No excuses. Absolutely no finger pointing. Your one and only job for 120 seconds is to just listen, absorb, and stay intensely curious about why the other person is feeling the way they do. And while that 120-second clock is ticking, I want you to use this exact phrase. I hear what you're saying, and I want to make sure I fully understand it. That's it. That's the whole magic trick. You were just validating their experience. Notice you don't even have to agree with them yet. You're simply validating that their perspective is real to them. I absolutely promise you, if you use this exact phrase, you are going to watch the energy in the room completely shift. It's wild. When you flat out refuse to play the role of the enemy, the conflict just loses all its oxygen.
As we bring this deep dive in for landing, I want to leave you with this one core truth. Conflict is not the enemy. Conflict is the fuel for your evolution. The people living the most successful lives, the couples with the most incredibly resilient relationships, they don't run away from uncomfortable conversations. They use them. They harness that friction to build deeper peace and a stronger foundation. You just have to make sure that your commitment to progress is always, always greater than your ego's temporary desire to be right.
So I want to end today's explainer with a provocative question to really get you thinking. What dreaded conversation actually changed your life for the better? Think back to a time when you were absolutely terrified to have a talk, but once you got to the other side of it, you experienced massive growth. I'd love for you to drop those silver lining stories down in the comments so we can all learn from each other's experiences. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me and upgrading your mindset today. Be sure to tune in tomorrow for our next explainer, where we're going to unpack the lost art of the sincere, unexpected compliment. Until then, keep leaning into the resistance and keep growing.